I had a request for a walk around and start up on my 1948 Crosley, and so I'm getting ready to put it in the garage for a month or two to try to get ready for the big Wasion 50th anniversary show for the Crosley Club this summer. And before I do that and lay it up for a little bit, I thought I'd just give a walk around. So this is a 1948 Crosley, and it looks a lot like the 46 and 47s, except that you can see the running lights on each side of the grille. And then in 48 and a half, they came out with a design that put kind of a grill bar and then a big chrome bullet on there. This is Crosley, a fine car. This particular car was I bought as basically an erector set. It had been disassembled and somebody intended to use it for a hot rod, and then that project stalled, and so when I got it, it was a body separate from the frame and bags of parts, all kinds of stuff, and had a lot of help from friend Randy Borth and some others getting it put back together. This car was apparently taken off the road in 1951. This is the license plate that came with it. It was a Minnesota car, and Crosley's originally had just one tail light at the time. It would have mounted here. I intend to put another one on so I can run turn lights and brake lights. The Crosley was one of the first all-steel station wagons in America, and that was quite an innovation. In fact, in 1948, I believe they were the best-selling station wagon in America, with, I forget, like 14 or 16,000 station wagons made. The hatch should have a key and a T-handle there, but not right now. And the tailgate only goes down that far, because there's the bumper overriders would get in the way. So it's actually kind of a hard space to step through. A lot of guys reverse the bumper overriders down below there so that they point down, and then put on longer brackets to allow the tailgate to drop down flat, and that's a lot easier for loading. The back seat folds down, which gives you a little bit more space inside there. You can see my temporary gas can. I've got a couple of gas tanks that are pretty solid. I need to pick the best one and get it fixed up. And you also see there one of the brake drums. Crosley used a mechanical brake system. They were still cable actuated, and these are tiny little 6-inch drums. The brakes were one of the parts of the car that was probably less than fantastic. I use this as a stand to hold up this Crosley flag here. This is the original upholstery material. This is kind of a plastic covered fabric material, and it's held up reasonably well. It's torn in a few places. You can see some duct tape there holding it together. So let's button it up back here. And walk around to the front. Another one of the odd features of the Crosley car after World War II, it was advanced in that it came with an overhead cam engine, but it's a tiny little dude. It's just 44 cubic inches and 4 cylinders. And one of the weird things is that the engines after World War II were made out of galvanized steel. So you can see that the galvanizing on the block, and you can see the Crosley logo down there. The oil filter, I don't know if that was optional or not. Mine's not actually hooked up yet. There's the starter, and the CoBra engine, copper braze, CoBra as they called it, was really supposed to be a great feature in that it was light, it was strong. Powell Crosley, the manufacturer, liked to show that you could freeze it, water in the block, and it would not crack. And problem was that it combined a few different types of metals, and with the salt-based antifreezes back then, they tended to corrode and begin to leak. Mine may have a very small internal leak. I haven't quite been able to pinpoint what's going on, but it runs, and runs pretty well. One thing about these engines is they are a little bit louder than the cast iron blocks because there's not as much metal there to damp the noise. Let's see if we can get started here. So let me, while we're taking a peek inside. So this is the interior. These would have had rubber floor mats originally, and they would have had a door liner. Mine, I haven't recovered that yet. And then they had these kind of wood grain trim panels along the top of the door. One of the things that they improved over time was that they managed to move the door handle to the front of the door. In the first cars after the war, the door handle was at the back. You had to reach over your shoulder. The seats fold forward so you can get access to the back. That seat is a little snug for two people, but the legroom is not actually too bad. And in front, it's great. And there's plenty of headroom too. Again, Mr. Crosley was over 6 feet tall, and he wanted a car he was comfortable in. Quick look at the gauges, which are not hooked up. You've got two of them. On this side, you've got the ammeter, the gas gauge, temperature gauge, and the oil pressure gauge. And over here you've got the speedometer. It reads 70 miles an hour. I think you could only do that if you're going downhill and steeply downhill. They cruised at about 45 miles an hour, and you could do 60, but you couldn't do it very long before they blew up. You can see that this car has about 20,900 and something miles on it. Again, it didn't travel very far before it got parked. The center of the dash, there's a hole for a radio that I have not gotten installed yet. And over there is the grill for the speaker. And here is the glove box with a notice: do not drive over 35 miles per hour in high for the first 500 miles. And then some tips for the pressure for the tires and things like that. I have some parts here in the glove box. This is amusing. This is a piston and connecting rod, so you can see that these are tiny little engines, 44 cubic inches, so 11 cubic inches per cylinder. I have here a reproduction of the instruction manual. Crosley, a fine car. They really like to emphasize that. Generally, if somebody has to tell you that much, probably they're fibbing a little bit. These knobs are for the vacuum wipers. There's a vacuum wiper on each side, and they each have their own motors, so you could adjust them individually. Again, I don't have those hooked up. 3-speed manual transmission, so this is reverse. Down is first, and then up and over is second, and down is third. No synchro mesh, which means you have to double clutch. Here on the floor is the emergency brake, and this basically operates the cable operated brakes and operates on all 4 tires. So you pull it up and then move it forward to kind of notch it into a slot in the floor. Then when you pull it back and drop it down, this rubber pad here plugs that hole on the floor of the car. You've got the gas pedal, which I don't have on it. There's just a rod there. Brake, clutch, and that is the high beam there. And the car, like most cars of this era, started with a button, so you push that button and it engages the starter. I don't have the key inserted, so to start it you have to flip up the ignition switch here to arm the ignition circuit. See, make sure it's in neutral. Emergency brake is on. This has been sitting for a while, so the engine is starting cold. Let's see what we got here. So that's pretty good. I haven't started since yesterday. No choke. And it's about 70 degrees here, so it just fired right up. Idle like a beautiful engine. The fan and fan belt there. This is kind of an interesting feature. The generator there has a shaft on the back, and there's a rubber coupling that drives the water pump, which is that red device there. And a lot of people have trouble with the water pump leaking. I've been pretty fortunate. Mine does not do that much of it. And then that little stub hose right there is supposed to go up to the heater port, which I don't have installed right now. Alright, so that is the running Crosley CoBra engine. Go ahead and close this up. And take it for a drive. Now I don't have the hood latch fixed yet, so this is my hood restraint by Bungie. Alright, so another feature that they saved money on was they did not have roll-up windows, so the windows slide. The rear section slides forward and the front section slides back. That's true of the rear window here too. That's simple. The problem is that it's kind of hard to get your arm out the window to signal for braking. And these small flaps on each side of the car flip out to allow you to draw more air in to cool the car off while you're driving. So let's climb in here. All right. So I'm going to push the clutch in, push the brake in, and then release the emergency brake. Gas down. And we'll move this over into reverse and see how we go here. Without any sound deadening or interior, and without the rubber strips on the doors, this is an extremely loud car to drive. Everything rattles and bangs. Okay, here we go. First gear. Yep, no synchro mesh. Crunch, crunch. Cruising around downtown, or suburban lacrosse here. That is second gear. Not, also not very speedy. Jump into third here. Okay, third gear is basically good for everything from about 15 or 20 miles an hour up to top speed, whatever that might be. So, the brakes do work, but boy, they are not strong by modern standards. Let's do a U-turn here. Let's see how we look at nobody behind us. All right, here we go. Try double clutching. Neutral, out the clutch, push it in, shift up. A little better. Let's see how we do into third. Neutral, out the clutch, push into third. A little better. Double clutching is basically really necessary if you're going to downshift, which I'll have to do after this corner. And in that case, what you have to do is actually flip the throttle while you've got the car in neutral. So, neutral, flip the throttle, second gear, and away we go. That was pretty smooth. Back to the house and pop it into the garage. Bang! Okay, anybody coming? Nope. Drop in it first. It's got plenty of hop and jump in first gear. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to leave it neutral. I'm going to apply the emergency brake again. There we go. Out the clutch slowly. All right, and ignition off. Not bad. For a 48-year-old car that was a basket case, this is not doing too bad. These are these vents that I mentioned earlier. So there's your air supply. You've got one on the other side as well. And let's climb out. Very simple trim, just a couple of stainless steel pieces on the side. Some nice domed hubcaps with the Crosley logo and arrow on them. These domed hubcaps were actually a bit of a problem. They stuck out far enough they tend to get creased on curbs. And let's see, oh yeah. This is where the bracket for the spare tire would be bolted on, and the spare tire would go under there. And that's the underside of the car. There's the differential. And there is the tailpipe. You can see it's a tiny little dude. It's just a little bigger than my thumb. But that's all this little engine needs. So anyway, that's your Crosley Walkaround. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.